Okay, so we're just a few months away, legit, from electing a president of the United States of America. And honestly, I think like 9 out of 10 people are not interested. And so, my name is Albert. Thank you for watching the channel. I really appreciate it. And we're not going to jump too much into politics in particular, but in so much that I feel like elections don't matter for young people. All right. And so, here's the thing, let's define young, first of all. And once more, thank you very much for watching the channel. I really appreciate it. If you're not already, take a couple of seconds and consider subscribing. You feel me? It helps out the channel a bunch. And so, why do I not think that presidential elections, in particular this 2024 one, doesn't matter to young people? And then, right, let's start by defining young people. So, anybody under the age of, we'll be gracious here, 45, right? So, I would argue that anyone under the age of 45 really, you know, the politicians, the guys running in for office this year aren't looking out for your best interests. Something about this political climate has allowed for people that would otherwise be just very, very old figures in our life. So, for example, you know, if Gen Zers think that I'm old, kind of as a reference point in terms of just the kinds of things that we talk about and my points of view and sometimes my perspective on these things, then I would like to point out that the leader of arguably the free world is closer to 100 than he is like even 75. Maybe that's not mathematically true, but like in physical form, I'd argue that the presidential elections do not have young people's interests at heart. How could they possibly have young people's interests at heart when the people running for office are so much older than us? I mean, it's like trying to find common ground with our great grandparents, as young adults. I mean, we all love them very much. They're kind, nice, and old people, you feel me, that, deserve our kindness, compassion, and respect. But do they need to still really be working? I mean, social programs the world over have, kind of set the working retirement age in early 60s. We're pushing it in mid 60s, but I guess anti to the rhetoric of, work till you die kind of a thing, which I'm not a fan of at all, in terms of nobody should be forced to work until they die to have a quality life. I understand that a very small percentage of people want to, engage in some kind of physical or laborious activity until the day they kick over, and that's just fine, but most people would rather do other things, I'd argue. And so the disconnect between the candidates this year and the constituents is something that I've either failed to recognize in my middle aged life or I have just not given the time to, right? Because it's a little extreme now. I mean, in the time that I've been able to vote, right? Which arguably hasn't been long enough. And on the channel, we've brought up the fact that I believe strongly that the voting age should be 16 in this country. But, how could that conversation possibly even take place when there's little to no interest in politics from younger people on a national level? And even if that interest was there, it's simply just not as powerful as the politicians who've spent close to a century at their job, right? So I mean, it's a little skewed in that way. Politics always is, right? But still, you'd want the country to be represented just a little bit more fair. I dare say use the word equitable, but we'll just say fair, in that both of the candidates this year are likely to look out for interests that are of mid 20th century. And again, it's no bag on the old guys, right? This is what they know. This is their world. Unfortunately, their perspective of the physical world, mathematically speaking, just doesn't coincide with, the quality of life and the assurances that people in this country demand from their leader, And again, it's tough to provide assurances to a constituency when the leader of who's supposed to be representing you is literally older than any living member in your family. I mean, it's just not a good thing. Honestly, you want somebody in office who has things to lose in terms of a political career, a legacy. I mean, the two gentlemen that are running for president this year, one of them is still set to be sentenced on federal charges. And while the likelihood of him being, charged with any of those particular or being criminally arraigned for any of those charges that he has been proven that he has been charged with, is little to none. The guy's a likable guy. That's one thing that he has going for him for sure. And it's interesting because I just I just don't get it. I mean, I guess it's like being in the 80s and, seeing Ronald Reagan being elected, which again, to all fairness, I've not said anything bad about either, Reagan or the guy that's running for office now in terms of clearly people like them. Now what kind of people like them is a different question. And furthermore, I'd ask how old are the people that like these individuals, right? And again, without a doubt, I feel like it's super unfair to watch a political system in front of you that is in working all the time but doesn't work for you, kind of like the electoral college. It's kind of like all these old people are gearing up to run for presidency, but like who elects them, like because it definitely isn't the American populace, right? In terms of a direct democracy. So I mean, it kind of just makes you wonder what's the point of it all in terms of, well, I guess that's exactly what that whole strategy is, right? Is that when you muddle it down and then when you make it so that it matters so when it's so non-trivial that it doesn't matter, message conveyed. The rest of us will just sit back while old people continue to make decisions that impact our daily lives and have no skin in the game. I mean, oh my goodness, it sort of just makes zero sense to me, and it's unfortunate both that the Democrats and the Republicans in this country continue to utilize platforms and agendas from people that are just so far removed from the American public that, again, it makes you wonder so much that it almost doesn't. And it's so frustrating that it becomes almost laughable, right? I mean, so many big things are at stake, when there's presidential election years going down. But again, this year and the 2020 and 2016 have proven to be some of the most awkward elections in modern memory, right? I mean, we've heard of some odd ones before, but the last three have just been a little too much, I think, for the general American public to handle. So hopefully, when one of these two older gentlemen is done leading the free world, maybe an opportunity will present itself to somebody that is 50 to 60 years younger, because that's where we'll find the real change. And until then, we're kind of stuck with what we have. And I really think that we should be thanking all of our, older constituents for the current situation we're in, because regardless of what they may argue, we are in fact here because of them. So I guess what's more ironic is where we're going to be in 10 years and how Gen Zers and Alpha are going to argue that we're in a terrible place because millennials have refused to take accountability or take charge on big policy public action that is going to actually make a difference. Um, people have tried, right? Student loan forgiveness, all of these things that have just fallen really short. And again, while there's been a little progress, not enough progress has been made, honestly. Too many people in this country suffer from debt. Too many people don't have an opportunity for a good, decent quality of life. Too many people in this country are not given the opportunities that they deserve um, because of their sex. And yeah, when we live in a country where a bunch of dudes sitting around in black robes make decisions that impact women's lives directly, I just would say that that's sort of weird too. I mean, stripping people of basic human rights, um, making it so that, super PACs and PACs are constitutional. We've done a lot of backwards thinking and, moreover, not just thinking, but action. And so I just wonder if the elections are even really worth it this year. And honestly, I don't think they are. I don't think they've ever mattered less than they do this year. And that's a really, really tough thing to say because, I mean, typically speaking, people should be excited about voting. People should be excited about talking, as it concerns their um, at least national governmental policies. But when you disenfranchise people so much, and when the only info you get, when you Google a candidate's name, is whether or not their defense team is going to be able to put up something good to, avoid jail time, it's just not worth all of that trouble. There are so many problems in the world that we could be focused on, and instead, it's we're still stuck in this little room. But I think once we move past that, things should get better. So, thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. And notice that I tried not to say any candidate's name or anything at all with political stuff in terms of I just these guys are not good candidates for anyone under the age of 45. You know what I mean? Like if you're in your 70s and you live on the golf course out in Orlando, then I guess one of these guys might be for you. But considering that, again, just mathematically speaking, so many more people can benefit from a younger candidate than they would, you know great grandpa Jacob. I just wonder, and I'm wondering if I'm the only one that wonders. So I hope everyone has a great night. Okay, it's Saturday. Be safe. Don't forget your safe word, and just in general, have a good night. Okay, bye.